Right, the Sky Bet League One playoff semi-final first legs both finished 1-0. George, Bolton 1, Bradford 0. Amario, Cozier, Dewberry, who has provided some very cosy moments this season, doing so again, giving them the advantage heading into the second leg.
Yeah, he made it cosy and nearly made it even cosier. A player who, at the start of the season, looked like he was going to be one of the protagonists of the whole campaign, and maybe he still will be, because the first goal he scored here was sensational. What's become a bit of a trademark for him, off that right-hand side, bending the ball with his left foot into the top left-hand corner, and he very nearly made it 2-0 shortly after that, with a strike. They won the ball back very quickly. It was a fast break. He was set off down the right-hand side. Maybe not a great touch, where he took a little bit wide, and with his weaker right foot, still managed to beat the keeper, but it hit the inside of the bottom left-hand corner post and somehow kind of rolled across the goal line and then out for a goal kick. But yeah, kind of a mad 5 minutes after a first half where Bolton had been the better team and had created better chances, albeit Caden Jackson continued to cause Bolton issues with their high line. And I did think that when Caden Jackson came off, kind of later in the second half, Bradford lost quite a lot of their attacking threat with, I think it was Nick Powell who came on for the last 15 minutes or so, which was a really
they
weird...
They had Humphreys and Swan on the bench, and as you say, quick transitions, getting in behind the Bolton back line with speed.
And he was a lot.
Surely Humphreys or Swan is the option there.
I thought there was possibly a penalty on Jackson at one point, where Chris Farino got credit from commentary for basically using his body well. But I don't think he ever drew side by side with Jackson, and it looked to me like he both kind of managed to knee him in kind of the back of the leg, but also quite clearly push him in the back. But anyway, it wasn't given. There have been quite a few kind of half penalty shots which I've thought might be penalties over the playoff games where referees haven't given them, and I wonder if that's just a case of like, in these games, unless it's really obvious, like when we'll talk about in League Two, I'm just not going to give these. But yeah, Bolton were pretty good. Sissoko was really lively throughout the game on the left-hand side, really impressed me. They were good in possession. They didn't create loads, but they created enough, with Kenny being out injured, which is a huge blow, which we hadn't foreseen, and it looks like he's probably going to be out for the whole of the playoff campaign. That is a big blow for them, but Ruben Rodriguez came in and did well. No, they were good. Like, they were good value for the win. But I think there was enough in Bradford's performance as well to show that they aren't going to go down without a fight. And they had enough chances in the game, and as I say, it'll be interesting to see how Bolton approach the away tie, because we know that Bolton have a certain way of playing. We know that they like to dominate the ball. We know they play with a high line. But when you're 1-0 up away from home in a playoff semi-final, and the opposition striker is Caden Jackson, whose whole game is effectively running off that shoulder, and did so with pretty good effect in the reverse, it'll be interesting to see how they approach this one. But yeah, the only occasion of this, of the first group of games, we've got kind of a regulation home win to 0, which is kind of normally what you expect from a playoff semi-first leg.
For sure. Yeah, the only home win of the half dozen games that have taken place over the last few days. I mean, Bradford had a decent look in the first half after a turnover. Sarcevic with the shot, it was blocked in the end, but that was a very presentable opening. He also, like the melee that followed Jackson and Farino, their clash, Sarcevic ends up hitting the post from quite a narrow angle and like almost actually squeezed it in. It was almost one of those where everyone's focusing on whether the ref's going to give a penalty or not, and then Sarcevic genuinely almost scored in the aftermath. I think I saw it broadly similar to you. I don't think Bradford will be too gutted with their performance at all. It's basically, it's one moment of wizardry. Obviously, they'll be disappointed because part of the game plan will be making sure that Cozier Dewberry doesn't get those sorts of opportunities, and it was just a bit of a random sort of cross from the left that managed to skid through and get to his feet. Otherwise, I thought they defended pretty well. Obviously, Bolton had possession territory and did have the majority of the shots in the game, but that was their only shot on target in the whole game. And I can't think of many other clear-cut chances that they had. I think it's a massive deal that they're missing their starting two strikers, Dalby and Kenny. I think would probably, if everyone was fit, be playing up top. I think it changes the way that they play, because I think one of the things that Dalby and Kenny, since they've grown their partnership, have added to Bolton's game is another dimension where because Dalby's such a good target man and Kenny's so quick and so good at running in behind, I think it just makes it so hard because you want to press them. You want to make sure they can't just build up easily and get into your final third at will. But then they can go over you and they can go in behind you with those two. But when it's Burstow, who I still really like as a player, and I always think he has loads of good moments in games, even if he doesn't seem to put it all together for a full 90 very often. But they basically had Ruben Rodriguez and Ethan Erahan playing as the kind of number 8s on each side. And Erahan was getting in quite advanced positions in the first half, picked up the ball in some quite dangerous areas, but that's not him. That's not his game. So he didn't look hugely comfortable when he got on that ball. So lots for Shuey to think about, I think, in terms of his setup at the top of the pitch for this game. And I wonder how Bradford would approach it. I'm really surprised, as you mentioned, that we didn't see Humphreys or Swan off the bench at all. They are also, I mentioned the injury to Dalby and to Kenny. I mean, Poynton being out is a disaster for them because he's just such a perfect player for them in so many ways in that number 10 role. And George Lapsley is just not nearly as good. I don't like being harsh on players, but I think that's pretty cut and dried. I mean, his last season at Gills, 2 seasons ago, he played like 600 minutes. And then at Bradford last season, bit part player. This season, bit part player. It's obviously not ideal either that they're in this position and they've got absences that mean that they've got to use a kind of a reserve player that's just not as good as their star man. So both teams missing key players. I liked the performance of Jensen Metcalf in midfield. Just stands out as just a really nice all-rounder in midfield and very composed for a young player as well. And I think we have to hope from the neutrals' point of view that Bradford are just a bit of a different beast at home. And I think they'll be fairly happy that it's 1-0 and they'll be fairly comfortable that they can be themselves and, in front of their home fans and, scare Bolton a little bit more, actually get more tangible chances than they did in this game. No doubt, watching this game, my takeaway is that Bolton have much better individuals on paper. It's not a surprise. They've got a much bigger budget. They've been at this level for much longer, been able to build a squad to suit that, whereas Bradford are trying to basically pogo stick their way into the Championship from League Two and haven't been able to do so in a recruitment sense. So Bolton should see it out from here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get some drama, and that's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great tie, this. Valley Parade will be absolutely rocking. You can be sure of that. So, I guess maybe for the neutral, this should be one of the better second legs. I'm excited.
So Stevenage 0, Stockport 1 was the other one. And I'm going to start at the end because Stockport's winner was scored by Ben Osborne in the 94th minute. And this was the first goal scored in this season's EFL playoffs, the 40th birthday of the EFL playoffs, of course, and may we thank the people that set them up. Greatest thing in sport. After about 300 total minutes of football, we saw a goal. And George, this is the most Sunday League goal I think I've ever seen. What a way for the first goal of the playoffs to be scored. So Dan Phillips is on the ball, midfield, facing backwards, and Stevenage would have liked to have won the home leg, but more than anything, probably just fairly happy with a 0-0. He passes back to Pidge, and Pidge's first touch is really poor. He gets it stuck under his feet, bless him. And Benny Brecky Anderson nips in. And he's through on goal. But as he gets towards the box, he trips over his own feet and he falls flat on his face. And the ball dribbles towards Philip Marshall in the Stevenage goal.
Well, yeah, you said dribbles towards Philip Marshall in the Stevenage goal. It's a Brecky assist. In the most absurd circumstances where he falls over, he rolls over, and as he rolls over, his right foot kicks the ball away from Piergiani, who obviously thinks he's about to have his redemption and boot the ball away. And it's like the most perfect ball through that runs through to Ben Osborne. Like it's
but hold on, there's
incredibly...
still 3 Stevenage players that could clear the ball. For
sure. But the more I watched this so many times earlier today, because initially I'm like, does Piergiani kind of like touch it and not clear it? I don't think it touches anyone apart from Brecky until it goes to Osborne. And it's just somehow his forward motion and him rolling over the ball just kind of spurts it in between them all. It's absolutely bizarre. Like it's,
One
crazy.
of the most, there's an incredible photo doing the rounds which is taken from, if you can picture the goal, it's taken from like the right wing, edge of the box, if you like. And the ball's just gone in. And what you can see, the picture is framed with the stand at the other side of the pitch, full of Stevenage fans. And 90% of them have their head in their hands. And you've just got to think, like, what possible thing can happen, not just in football, in the world, that makes that proportion of 1,000 people put their head in their hands all at the same time. It's absolute cinema, it's art, and it's a sickener for Stevenage, and it put Stockport in such a strong position for the second leg. It was probably a 0-0 game. Wootton had a back post header from a corner in the first minute or two. Sidibe sprung in behind at one point and massively overhit a ball across to Louis Barry, who would have been very well placed, you'd think, to put them ahead. For Stevenage, Roberts had a good shot from the edge of the box, tipped over by Corey Adai. Meat and drink for big Corey. He's got such long arms. And Pierre Gianni had 2 free headers, one in the first half, one in the second half. One of them he headed wide, one of them he headed just over. On a different day, he's at least testing the keeper there. Kemp had a 1-on-1 in the second half, which he completely botched. He didn't trip over his own feet like Benny Brecky did, but he never looked.
If he had it, probably would have rolled straight through to Reed. Job done.
It might have been the perfect assist.
Yeah.
He ended up trying to buy a penalty, trying to initiate some contact, and ref wasn't having it. That was disappointing from a Stevenage point of view. Stockport had a couple of free kicks in the second half, Norwood and Bailey. But this was basically a 0-0 game with a farcical goal that reminds us why we kind of love football, but why it seems a bit unfair as well. I brought up Carl Wootton a lot in the build-up because this is the sort of thing that gets me going. Like a striker suddenly turning into a centre-back. I love that sort of shit, and he's doing so well there, and he played so well. And frankly, I don't think many attacking players on the pitch stood out at all in this game, but Wootton playing centre-back certainly did.
I've got a kind of slight theory about this goal, which is that obviously it's clearly a good thing for Stockport. Like, I'm not denying that Stockport's probability of going through has shot up off the back of that goal. There is a world where I think had Stockport gone into the home game level and knowing the onus was on them to go and attack the game, it could have been quite nasty for Stevenage. There's an element of me that thinks that by having to protect a lead and therefore maybe not being quite as gung-ho, and the game therefore being a bit more nervy and a bit more cagey and possibly lower scoring could suit Stevenage. It could be quite a similar look of the game, and then it just comes down to who can finish their chance. So it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me if Stevenage win this game 1-0, for example, which maybe would have been less probable had we seen Stockport kind of throw everything at it from either a deficit or a kind of tied game.
If you were to tell me right now that Carl Piergiani will have 2 free headers in the second leg, I'd probably think that equals 1 Stevenage goal. So yeah, certainly not done yet, but what a moment. Absolute farce, to be quite honest. Let's see what happens in these 2 second legs in midweek, and obviously we'll break them down when they're all over.